And welcome to another episode of Panda's Talking Games, a show about gaming, game mastering, and entertaining you. Tonight, we're going to talk about reskinning. We are explicit, and you have been warned. Yes. Is there something wrong?
Yes. Wrong show.
No.
You've skinned pandas as misdirected Mark.
That was my point. I was reskinning the opening of Misdirected Mark onto Panda's Talking Games.
Okay.
Because I believe we're going to be talking about reskinning tonight, right?
That's what we're going to talk about. So maybe now, since you confused us, let's cue some music.
And welcome to another episode of Panda's Talking Games. I'm your host, Phil.
And I am your other host, Zenda.
I took it easy on you on that one because
you already threw me for a loop.
I like when it's not scripted. You have no idea
I literally have no idea what you're doing. I was like, dude, that's the wrong show. And you're like, no, I'm doing a thing. And I'm like,
you just went so squeaky that my earbud cut out.
That's fine. It'll pick up on everybody else's audio.
Yeah, I actually didn't hear the high notes on that. Anyway, welcome to another episode. Tonight, we're going to take a little break from our normal chit-chat, our pandemic chit-chats, as we have been
doing. Hardly normal. They've turned normal because we've done so many.
Well, we've done so many, and the country has done such a bang-up job on the pandemic.
Yeah.
That what we thought was just going to be a few months of doing chit-chats looks like we could be hunkering down for a while.
It's true. So there is one thing that I will say about this episode, which is that while we are not doing a chit chat in terms of our content, this episode is still completely unscripted, including the fact that I had no idea what the opening was. And I will not be editing it. So as usual for our pandemic series of audio files, you will be delighted, I am sure, to find our outtakes embedded in the very fabric of the podcast itself.
Just like the opening.
Just like the opening. A delight. Awesome. Always a delight.
Awesome. So, as you might have guessed from our jumbled opening, we're going to be revisiting reskinning because we got a question.
It's true. We did. We got a question from Joe who said, hey guys, I liked your episode about reskinning, but I don't think I really grok it. I was blown away by Senda's Cyberpunk Fellowship of the Ring. Could you guys just do more examples like that? Take a few well-known story plots and pitch them in different genres. Thanks so much for what you do. Well, thank you so much for listening, Joe. You are fantastic. So what you're going to get tonight, however, is a completely unscripted attempt by both Phil and myself to just reskin things on the fly. But we're going to explain what we're doing as we do it.
Yeah, so we're going to start off really quick by re-explaining the concept of reskinning, what it is, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the technique. And then we each have a movie that we are going to reskin, and we'll kind of pick it apart a little while we're reskinning it. So, first, the definition of reskinning. Right, so reskinning is to take the core tropes and themes of a given work and place on them new trappings. So remember, trappings are like your setting. It might be like the way you dress, geography. They might be from genre, things like that. And then so that's going to be like the veneer, right? And then underneath it is going to be the core themes, like I said, tropes, those kinds of things that are what make the thing that you're reskinning so good. So, if I might, by way of example,
yes, please.
I'm trying to think of something that we could easily reskin. So let's, oh, cool. You know what? I'm just looking around my room. So, and I see that I have a picture of Wolverine on my wall. So let's just take a look at Marvel superheroes Wolverine, right? Pretty iconic pretty iconic superhero. Let's talk about if we were going to reskin Wolverine, right?
Sure.
So on the surface, right, our trappings for this is that Wolverine is one, a superhero, two, from the modern era, right? So Wolverine has like modern looking clothing, hairstyle, things like that. He's human, right? That's a trapping, right, on the surface. And then, so those are his surface things. What are the iconic things about Wolverine, right? He's grumpy. He has unbreakable bones. He has retractable claws.
Yes.
And he has some wicked healing factor. Okay, cool. So now what we can do is we actually can break those two sets apart, right? So we can break the veneer, the modern human superhero, from the healing factor, unbreakable bones, claws, and grumpy, right? And now we can just get rid of the veneer and go pick another veneer, right, from another setting, and then put it together, right? So I think what might be fun. Let's see. Let's pick something really out there. I'm trying to think of a genre. Give me a genre.
Any genre?
I don't know.
Okay.
Let's see. It'll either work or it won't.
It's true. I mean, not every
we're
genre
unscripted.
works with everything. I'm gonna say do like Gundam suits.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. So I think that all right. So if I'm gonna make Wolverine into Gundam, then I don't want Wolverine being human. I now want Wolverine to be a mech.
Yes.
Okay, so I want this mech. I want this mech to be relatively unbreakable for whatever reason. It has some sort of special frame or whatever. It regenerates, so it has some sort of advanced tech that is that has like nanites, or it's a mech, so it's pretty big. So it has like micro machinery or whatever that's self-repairing. I'm going to still give it claws, although I'm not going to do the 3 claws. I think I'm just going to give it like one big spike coming out of each arm.
Yeah, it's less specifically identifiable.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I'm going to take the grumpy part. I'm going to assign that to, I think, the pilot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, it depends, right? If it is the style of mech that has like a computer, an Iron Man computer, good. Oh, normally
it's better if you don't pull. It's better if you don't extend that out.
I know, but normally I edit that sort of thing, so I have some bad habits. Anyway, so like if it's an Iron Man style thing where it talks to you, then it could have a grumpy personality.
It absolutely
which would be really funny.
It absolutely could. Or if I really wanted to keep all of it in the mech, when you interface with the mech, it's very uncomfortable, and so it tends to leave the pilot grumpy. Right, like during the time that they're piloting it, and afterwards, there's like a lingering effect where the pilot is just agitated.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, what we're talking about here is looking at a thing and identifying what its core, what are the core pieces that make it up, and what are the veneer things. Right, the veneer things are often the things we see.
Yeah.
Right. And the core pieces are usually the thing that if I ask you to describe a thing, they're the first things you tell me.
Yep.
Okay, and then what we do is we just peel those apart, change the veneer, and put a new veneer on top. Now, likewise, I'll just give another example. This can easily be done on a mechanical level with stat blocks.
Yes.
Right? So a very crafty... I will say crafty. I will also /lazy thing for a GM to do is if they want to have a monster or NPC or whatever, that rather than whipping up a whole fresh stat block, you can just basically take a stat block and reskin it. So, for instance, if I want a really big human NPC, big, massive size, like the mountain, like the mountain from Game of Thrones, right? Something frighteningly large and scary. And I don't want to work up those stats myself. I could just take an ogre stat block, right? I could just peel off ogre, put description of big human dude in armor with giant sword.
Yep.
And just and not change anything else, right? Because here's the thing about reskins. The players interface with the game world through your descriptions. So as you describe the veneer of something, as you describe what they see, hear, and feel, that's what they know, right? You never tell them, like, oh, this thing is 8 hit dice with a, 16 armor class, blah, 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 right? You never say that.
Yeah.
Even if you're not reskinning it, right? So they don't know that this is an ogre stat block. All they know is that when it hits them, it hurts a lot. And when they hit it, it hasn't died yet.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and that's a mechanical reskin, right? That's just replacing the veneer, the part you're going to say, with the mechanics underneath it.
Yeah.
So, okay, cool. Those are two ways to do reskins, right? Narratively reskin and mechanically reskin. And then just to tie it all together, if we were playing like a Gundam game, I would, when I reskin and make the Wolverine Gundam, right, I'm going to also apply mechanics to the stats for the Gundam, right? I'm going to have some sort of rules or whatever about its healing. I'm going to have some sort of armor rating or whatever based on its very unbreakable armor and some damage stats or whatever for, the big spike, etc. Right? So you can do it. You can do it just narrative. You can do it just mechanical, or you can put them together.
Yeah.
I think that covers that. That basically covers the gauntlet of different ways you can reskin stuff.
I know, and I'm very impressed with you because we didn't plan any of that out or have any written down definitions or anything.
Right? It's as if all these years of doing this has paid off, right?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe that.
All right, cool. So what we did talk about before we hit the record button was, by way of another example, we would do a different type of reskin, which is we were going to reskin a movie to a new genre.
Yeah, so we're gonna skin plots. Like if you wanted to yoink a plot from some sort of media because you like it and you want to put it in a completely different place where people are unlikely to identify that that is the plot that you stole, then this is how you would reskin a plot, which was what Joe was referring to, the question that he originally asked, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Do you want to start with yours, or would you like me to start with mine?
No, I did a whole bunch of talking.
Yeah, you did do a lot of talking.
I'll let's let people hear your voice because it's lovely.
Well, thank
you. And you do your part, and then I'll come back. I'll do mine, and then we'll wrap up the show.
Awesome. So, in typical Senda fashion, I have chosen The Labyrinth as the movie that I have that I'm going to reskin, and I'm just going to very briefly say, so this is a movie that I adore, and I hope that y'all have seen it because it's been around for a while. So I'm not going to spend too much time jumping into all the details of it or anything. But essentially, it's a girl coming of age movie, which, go figure, I like. And then I tried to come up with more movies. I was like, oh, I could do this one or this one or this one. Oh, they're all girl coming of age movies. It's like, that's my thing. Cool. But there are some tropes about The Labyrinth that are about that type of story genre. And there are some tropes about The Labyrinth that are some other things too. So what I thought we would do that would make it really interesting is take The Labyrinth, which is a movie that was contemporary when it was filmed, which was like the 80s? And is a story about a teenage girl getting whisked away to a magical labyrinth to save her little brother who gets stolen by goblins, right? And so I thought that we would make that sci-fi because I think that would make a very cool plot for someone who was on a ship finding companions and trying to find something precious to them that was taken from them. So there's a specific type of trope in this, which is a self-exploration and journey to independence trope. So that would be one of the things we'd be looking at. There is a finding friends / companions along the way, which is really girl coming of age story trope, and I love it. And there's in the labyrinth specifically, there is also a race against time, which is fun for me to think about if we're in a spaceship, trying to get, galaxy to galaxy. And then, so the original Veneer, like I said, we got a teenage girl. She's really into like fantasy, instead of like the real world. And she's basically frustrated that she's being expected to act in a little bit more of an adult way, instead of getting to keep acting like a kid. And that's that like original story. And so for me, what I started imagining when I started thinking about this, if we're going to peel off the 80s, we're going to peel off the fantasy, we're going to peel off the labyrinth itself, right? Because although I will say one of the things about the labyrinth is that it has some very cool and distinct specific locations, right? So that's part of the reason that I think that this works. We'll get into that in a second. So we're going to peel off the idea of the labyrinth itself. We're going to peel off the fantasy tropes and those pieces. And what I'm left with that I start imagining is that we have the pilot of a ship, and maybe something a cross between like a Star Trek and a Firefly, where we can just like add people into the crew, so that we can have companions kind of joining into this journey of self-discovery and independence. And then we set up something where, we don't have magic, we have sci-fi, right? So if something is going to be taken from our pilot or from the crew of this ship, would be the pilot and her companions, then that thing could be teleported away to somewhere. And the thing would be teleported away, and then our Gareth equivalent big bad would, of course, set some sort of race-like time limit. Like, if you can get to this star system by this time, you can have it back. And then what we have is a race against time through the solar system trying to get there, right? And so you get to then do things like in the labyrinth, you have areas like the Bog of Eternal Stench, which is one of those like cool locations that has really distinct features, but like awesome. Now it's a planet. Like, you need to go, get past this planet because now you need to pick up fuel. And this is the space that you have to pass through, like, to go get fuel or whatever it is. So now you have a planet to explore. And maybe you pick up a new companion there. Maybe he looks like a fox. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. That's up to you. There's a scene where she ends up in the oubliette, and she can't figure out a way out. And if we consider space itself as the labyrinth, then there are some interesting possibilities for how you could approach a very similar thing. So you could say, there's a black hole. How are you going to get out of the gravitational pull of this black hole to be able to continue your journey? Or spaceship crashes and you're stuck on an empty planet. How are you going to get off of it, right? Like, there are a lot of different ways that you can think about locationally, like using planets or different space features to create similar experiences to things that happened in the actual labyrinth. And then to me, the Goblin City in the center of the labyrinth would be your like final planet location where you would have to land the ship and to go find the thing that you were chasing across the galaxy to begin with. So that was kind of my thought about the labyrinth as a sci-fi situation, which I think I would be actually kind of excited to play. The only problem with this kind of trope as a role-playing game, I will say, is that it is about one character primarily, and so it can be difficult to play with a party of people. And there are some games that specifically do that, and you could adjust them. Most of them are not written for sci-fi because that's not sci-fi is not a typical genre in which we see this kind of story, even though, interestingly to me, I think that you can phase a lot of those tropes back and forth because sci-fi can do so much.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I could easily see that being a campaign arc,
right,
for a period of time.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think the important part is, if you're going to do it as a group and not as a single, is that the whole problem can't be solved strictly by the main character, right? Like,
right.
It can be, quote, about one character, but really the one character is, draws on the whole troop.
Yeah, there's a really interesting thing about games that that specifically are for this kind of story in balancing that specific trope. Because when we talk about the movie version of that, it is always about the girl and her story, and she is the only one who can fix it at the end. But she needs her companions to basically support her so that she can learn that thing about herself that allows her to fix it, right? But like when we start talking about it as a role-playing game, there's lots of different ways that people have approached solving that problem. But it is a thing about this trope that if you're going to do it as an RPG, you have to have solved that problem in some way or made a decision in some way about how you're going to do that so that everybody still has an important part to play in what happens, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think there are a couple ways you could approach it, but yeah, I think your Reskin.
You played that game with us on She's a Super Geek, and you played a companion, and that was one of the ways. And now I can't remember the name of the game, but it's from Ginger Goat Games, and it's delightful. I love running it, but it has flown out of my head because I haven't been at conventions. The second that you said it, I forgot it as well. So I'm going to let you look it up while I'm going to talk about mine. You tell me about yours.
I've selected one of my all-time favorite movies, The Bourne Identity, and I'm going to reskin it for fantasy. Mm-hmm. So by way of what do I think is important, so if I'm looking at the core of this, right, The Bourne Identity is a movie about a person with amnesia who has some startling abilities. There is a mystery to discover who they are. And what they discover along the way is that they were part of a covert government black ops operation that assassinated people, which means that our character was once an assassin with some pretty amazing abilities. So if I'm going to go fantasy, well, I have a couple options. So the easiest, and I will consider it I will consider it the low bar, right, is that it's just an assassin's guild. That is, to me, not interesting, right?
Right.
So what I want for our black ops is I think I want so in our fantasy world, inside the main church. So Church of the Good God, right? Like whoever the good god or good pantheon
the good one is. Sure.
Right. Inside that church, there is a secret order that does not passively stand by and wait for divine intervention or good things to happen in the world, right? So our Treadstone, right? Treadstone's the name of the project in the Bourne Identity.
Okay.
Our Treadstone is a cabal of clerics who are really not good anymore.
Right.
They're lawful.
But
right?
not
They're lawful
good.
because they believe in law.
Right.
But they're not good. And what they've done is that they have created a set of paladins.
Okay.
That they have imbued with divine energy.
Right.
To go forth and ensure that their world, their kingdom, whatever, persists and remains in prosperity, often by murdering other kings, heads of states, what you call it, giant chieftains, whatever, right? And in the case of our story, again, the Born identity is a single character. But if I'm going to do this as a group, then I just am going to have everyone wake up with amnesia.
Right.
Nobody knows why they have no memory of the situation, but wherever they are, they're like adrift, either adrift on the ocean, or they wake up in a snowy field with no recollection of who they are. And they are, one, being hunted by their order, because their order is like, where are you? Right? They're being hunted by whoever it is they were trying to kill.
Yep.
Because that group also would like to know what the deal is. And it's, again, a mystery to reclaim who they are. And then along the way, they discover that this secret cabal of lawful but not good clerics exist inside their holy order.
Yeah.
And what are they going to do about it? Now, knowing players, I'm like, oh, they'll, instantly take umbrage and tear it down. But for all I know, they're just going to turn around and sign up.
I mean,
right?
they could. They could just be like, hey, I don't remember what's going on, but I've figured this out again, and I'm on board.
Yeah, they could, right? They in the movie, Jason Bourne is appalled at the fact that he was a assassin, and, he leaves Treadstone and is like, I want to just live a normal life. But if we're talking about players could be like, oh, that's awesome. Can we get restored so that our memories are intact? And can we keep playing this?
Right.
To which I might have to deal with that. Or my players could go full chaotic and be like, oh, this is exactly the reason why law sucks. And, attempt to tear the whole thing down. I think I win either way, depending on the outcome. So I'm pretty good with it. Like, I think it'll totally work.
Well, I will just slip in and then we can keep talking about yours. The game from Ginger Goat Games is called Heroine, and I love it. It is powered by the Apocalypse girl coming of age game, which plays very much in the style of The Labyrinth or Alice in Wonderland or any number of stories that you can do like that. And you can hear Phil and me and Andy and Chris play it on She's a Super Geek. It's very old, so you have to go back a ways, but you can find it.
Oh yeah,
but
it's way
it's
back
way. I had to scroll for a while. It was good, but I do like that game a lot. It's delightful, and I have run it a bunch of times, and it solves the primary player companion player issue in a very interesting way that I enjoy, which would be cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, no, I would totally play that as the cleric identity, like.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I would totally play that game.
I think it's got some potential. But again, it hits upon the thing that we talked about, right? So the veneer of the Born Identity movie is, it is modern, it is espionage, it is technology, it is spycraft, right? And we're going to replace that, and then the core part of it, right, is about, like, as I talked about, is the amnesia and, the secret cabal, right? In this case, Treadstone is a project inside the CIA, right? We can just rip those pieces off and just keep the cabal part, all of that. And then the veneer we put over it, obviously for fantasy, we have, magic and divine powers and all that stuff. So
yeah, I mean, that's obviously how he lost his memory in this version.
Oh, they went to kill somebody and some spell went off.
Yep.
And they both got teleported and their minds were wiped.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, or they got teleported and their minds are actually held by the enemy.
Oh, man.
And they have no memory because they don't, right? And that leaves another part with the,
That's a whole other thing where you could go back and get your personality back if you decided to.
Right. Or would you want to, right?
Want
and that's
to?
the...
Dun, dun, dun. And that's it right there, isn't it?
That's the whole Jason Bourne thing.
That person again, or are you happier the way that you are?
Right, when Jason Bourne discovers that he was an assassin in like Act 2 of that movie,
yeah,
like he has this kind of revulsion, like he's like disgusted about what he is.
Yep. Yeah.
And his handlers are pissed that his boss, when he finally confronts Coughlin at the end, calls him a $30 million malfunctioning weapon.
Yeah.
So,
no, I love it. I think that's great.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's got, it's definitely got, I would run it. Like,
yeah,
I would run it. I wouldn't have any problem running it. I think the fun way to do it is I would run it in Fate, and I would give, I would basically give everybody, give everyone blank character sheets. Right. I'd fill in stuff along the way. Mm-hmm. Like let them fill in stuff along the way, like skills and talents they have and stuff like that. The aspects they could make up as their new character, but I would also have the aspects of their old character.
Original. And you would just apply their old aspects when it came up as like a physical thing. Yeah.
Only if they choose to be restored. Right. If they choose to be restored, then they have to like look at both sets of aspects and pick which ones they want to keep.
Well, no, but
if they choose,
part of what's interesting with the Bourne Identity is like he keeps accidentally discovering that he knows how to do things that he didn't think that he knew. He's like, why do I know how to do this,
I think that's the skills and stunts that I would keep. Like I would not define, right? So I would just be like, cool, you have a +4 you have a +4, 2 +3s, 2 +2s, whatever. And you have up to 3 stunts, and then just like wait for the characters to do something and be like,
yeah, okay.
Apparently I can fight. And then they just write fight at +4.
Right.
Yeah. Or I'm really good at creating advantages, right? So they take a stunt that allows them to create an advantage with their with fight. Like they get a +2 when creating advantage in a fight or something. Like I would that's how I would tackle that, and let the players kind of through the course of the game discover, get them to discover the character they want to be.
Yes.
Like, oh, apparently I'm really good at lying or disguise or whatever. But separately, I would have who the characters originally were.
Who they actually truly originally were. Yeah.
Right. So if they choose to be restored, like the clerics would be like, look, we can restore you, but it's not going to take completely. And then basically you hand them the set of aspects, and you'd be like, okay, you can keep 2 aspects.
Yep.
And you have to take 2 aspects.
Yes.
Right? And those characters are like evil zealots.
Yes.
Right? So like
lawful but evil.
yeah, exactly. Ends justify the means, right? Like just
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I like it. That's cool. Yeah.
We should prepare to roll on to the end of the show.
Yeah.
Because I think we're at a really good time.
Mm-hmm, we really are.
For an unscripted show, we're at an amazing time.
Yeah, because we had 2 topics and we finished talking about them, and that's it. We're done.
Yes. So, Senda, tell me about another show on the Misdirected Mark Network.
Oh, snap. That thing. Sure. On the Misdirected Mark, you can catch Phil and Bob and Jerry talking about cool things like GMing and game design advice. It's kind of the 201 class and that stuff. And you can watch them live every Tuesday night. That's
absolutely.
What else do you usually say about? Is everybody entertained by Senda attempting to remember the blurbs?
Not entertained. Say, Senda, where do people find us on the internet?
Hey, you can find us on Twitter at PandasTalkGames. You can find us on Oh, wow. We're not on Facebook anymore. Don't look for us on Facebook. You can find us in the Misdirected Mark forums, which is forums.misdirectedmark.com, or you can drop us an email, panda@misdirectedmark.com. And Phil, once they have that information, what can they do with it?
Yes, by all means. Please send your questions, your ideas for topics, and things like that. Who knows? We may just do one like we did tonight, where we didn't even structure a show. I'm becoming less convinced that structuring the show is really an important thing anymore with this show.
It's fine.
It might be more like a pirate code, like just some guidelines.
Guidelines.
Yeah. Anyway, please send us your topics and ideas. We actually really love doing the show when it's about things that you find interesting, just like tonight, where we just hopefully helped clarify reskinning, because that's a thing that we love to do. We love to help you be better gamers and game masters and players, right?
It's fun.
That's really what we're here for, right? Our real goal out of all of this is just to make you better gamers. So anyway, send us those topics. Now, if you like what we do here elsewhere on the Misdirected Mark Network, we would encourage you to Patreon the shows, right? You can go to patreon.com/MMP. Patrons get access to the ever awesome Slack Room for Life. I can't say enough about that community of awesome people. You can check out PK Sullivan's adorable puppy Loki.
Oh, he's so cute.
That dog is so painfully cute.
Baby corgi.
It's a baby
pupper.
corgi. I'm not sure in the dog family if there's much cuter than a baby corgi.
I mean,
I'm sure people will disagree.
Boy.
But baby corgi is painfully
corgi
cute.
named Loki. I just don't think that it gets any better than that.
I don't know if you should name animals after the god of mischief. Like, we once had a server in my old job that was named Loki, and it had a very bad habit of crashing at inappropriate times. Like, not the best idea. Anyway, come to the Slack Room for Life. It is fantastic. We have different topic rooms. Like, you can go in and talk about role-playing games and stuff like that. You can just generally converse with all the awesome people. You can get the bonus outtakes from the show, the after show from Misdirected Mark. When Encoded Designs is kind of up and running in non-pandemic mode, you can get certain goodies. Actually know that Bob just ordered a test print deck for something that we will probably share with the community at some point. So I'm looking forward to that, because I would like to shower some gifts upon our lovely patrons. A thing you can do that's not patron related, but also with our awesome community, is you can join our Star Trek Watch Club.
It's true.
We're currently in season 5 out of 7 of Next Generation. But I assure you, work is being done as we speak on getting the Deep Space Nine watch list together, which will be a much more robust watch list.
I mean, yeah.
It's a lot harder to single out episodes in that. Yep. Anyway, that is a thing that we're doing as a community. We're having watch parties, and we're just having a lot of fun with that. So if you dig it, you should join us on that one, whether you're a patron or not, because that one you can just go to the forums for.
Yep, just check out the forums and hop in those watch parties. We would love to have you. We're having lots of fun watching things. Absolutely. Yes. So do all that. Support the Patreon if you can. The Patreon goes a long way for us, right? It handles operating expenses, all the things like hosting servers and equipment and microphones and all that stuff, right? That's what keeps the lights on here at Misdirected Mark Central. So we appreciate that patronage a lot. There is another thing you can do if you are already if you're already a patron of the show or unable to be a patron of the show, which is perfectly fine. There's a thing you can do. Super helpful. It supports our If You Listen to Us, You Will Love Us campaign. And what is that thing? You can leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or the podcatcher of your choice. Every new review we get really does actually help new people find the show. And also, we really like reading them. They give us warm, fuzzy feelings inside and make us feel like, that people are still happy to hear us despite the difficult circumstances of the world that we live in at the moment. So we really, really do super appreciate everybody who's left a review, both on a personal and a professional level. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate you.
So with that, say, Senda, what genre could I reskin She-Ra into?
She-Ra is already all the genres.
Show me what you got, hey. Show me what you got. Show me what you got, hey. Show me what you got. Show me what you got. Show me what you got.
This show is a joint production of She's a Super Geek and Misdirected Mark Productions, the media arm of Encoded Designs.
Show me what you got, hey. Show me what you got. Show me what you got, hey. Show me what you got. Show me what you got. Hey, show me what you got. Show me what you got.
Key.
Check, check. I got waveforms.
I have waveforms also. You know who
could ask
never
for anything more?
You know who never had waveforms?
Who?
Pandy. Pandy didn't have waveforms.
Pandy's very quiet.
He's very quiet. He doesn't have a mouth. Actually.
It'd be cool if Pandy made a sound of some sort. Like if it had like a little sound maker.
like a dog
Squeezy
toy,
thingy.
like a.
I don't actually know what sound a panda makes, like in real life.
You know, I looked it up and I don't remember. It was like not a thing that I expected, and it was.
I just
weird.
assume it's like crunching a bamboo or something.
I mean, I think that is the most common sound that they make, which means that it's funny, or like we don't understand well enough what a panda sounds like to like put panda noises on, because I think when I went looking for a panda sound effect at some point to put in for a panda sound, I was like, no one is going to know that was a panda sound.
I'm going to warn you.
Yes.
That this is the kind of thing we should talk about at the end of the show.
It is the kind of thing we should talk about at the end
And
of
we
the
should
show.
do the beginning of the show.
Let's give me like a 10-second silence so that I know where the beginning of the show is. Ready? Bloop. Hey, Phil.
And welcome.
No. You have to say, hey, Santa. We haven't done the beginning of the show yet.
I was going to do a thing.
Oh.
So let's cut this. I'll do the
Then you do
I'll do the opening. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Boom. Boom.
Like, what the heck? You gotta warn me before you do that kind of thing.